Do you understand? So we are concerned that Nigeria is like and these speculators or the investors, they understand what's going on. That's why they're all coming here, because they know that the laws are not there. So they can take advantage of it. If there's no law, there's no sin. Do you understand? And so, but the consumer is the one who is at the receiving end. Because if government cannot protect the consumer by ensuring competition is protected, by refusing to allow anybody become a monopoly of sorts, you understand? By ensuring that you encourage smaller players into that marketplace, Nigeria will, the consumer will end up not having any choice. I heard you talking about power. That's another kind of anti-competition, because when you have discos who the regulator sits with them and agrees with them on what can be charged and what cannot be charged. Do you understand? There's no competition, and then there's already allocated geographical areas to each one. So whether you like it or not, if you live in that geographical area, that's the only choice you have. Where's the competition?
So the regulator who's supposed to be protecting you is dining and whining
in bed with them. Look at the banking sector.
Even worse.
Look at the banking sector. I maintain it. There is a racket, a cartel that's called the Bankers Committee. Please look for any developed economy. Where do you find a body of, or every director of a bank sits on a committee that they formed together to sit with the CBN to determine how much we will charge for what? Do you understand? So by the time you go out there, the consumer it's a fait accompli. CBN has approved that they should charge you one naira. Whether you like it or you don't, you are charged the 1 naira. Why don't you let them go to the marketplace and prove themselves? Give them competition. If I think it will cost me 2 naira to run my business, charge me 2. Let somebody else come and say I can do this for better at 1 naira. Let somebody say I can even do it for free. But you don't give us that option. We are just at a fait accompli. So the problem that we have is that our regulators are too sympathetic to the supply side without thinking of the effect of that sympathy on the consumers. And that's where we're at.
But yes, and it's more. I think it's compounded that the consumer doesn't even know his rights, so he can't do much.
Yeah.
Maybe we should step back a little bit, and look at what are the rights of the consumer.
Number one, you have a right to choose. Primary, fundamental right of a consumer is the choice.
If you are given choices.
So government must, guarantee you those choices. That's the role of government. You have a right to choose. You have a right to be informed. You have a right to complain. You have a right to seek redress. You have a right to be heard. You should be able to speak, and somebody will say, "Oh, what are you saying?"
But are these rights justiciable?
Oh, yes.
Can a consumer decide that I'm going to court for my right?
You should, yes. In certain cases, because our legal structure, I told you when I started, our regulatory, when we say policy and legal structures to protect you as a consumer are weak, or they are non-existent. That's where this competition thing is an issue. If somebody can, because I can, that impunity of I am the big player here. Coca-Cola goes to buy Chivita, which was the closest indigenous competition, buys them over. What do people like Dancer and all these other smaller struggling beverage companies do? Can they match Coca-Cola in terms of logistics, in terms of whatever? Do you understand? So they are being muscled out of the market without thinking, without anybody protecting them. And who is going to pay for it? The consumer.
But when you talk about smaller competition, if there's no bill, is anything stopping the smaller competition from coming together to fight the bigger one?
How do you come together to fight the bigger one when regulator is allowing or backing? I mean, look at what is happening.
Are you implying that the regulator, for instance, CBN, NERC, NCC,
NCA,
that they're not neutral in any way?
They have not been showing themselves to be neutral. Do you understand? And there should be in every developed capital economy, a capitalist economy, you have an independent commission who is not playing in any sector, whose business it is to look at what is going on, like the regulator's regulator, to look at what's going on in each of this sector to ensure that somebody is not tilting. Look, if you listen to the arguments of these service providers. Do you understand? As a regulator, you won't have a choice but to say, we don't want you to go out of business because we want you to continue to provide this service. So you can understand why they bend in that direction a bit. But if there was an independent regulator who looks at it and say, hey, NCC, you can't do that. If you allow these people to do this, this is what will be the consequence. You can't do it. So they must get the permission of the Competition Commission before such mergers and acquisitions can happen. So the regulators don't have anybody who regulates them. So when they take decisions that seem a bit biased towards the service provider, who is calling them to order? And that's what's going on. Look, the banking industry, we woke up one morning and they decided that they should start charging us this and charging us that and all that.
50 naira.
Nobody who is
Stamp
saying,
duty.
hello, did you consider, why should bankers be sitting at a table to determine how much should be paid and should not be paid in the marketplace? That's not a capitalist thing. It's a controlled environment. Consumers don't have choices. If I decide I don't like the way you do banking or you charge me, let me go to somebody else. You'll find that the baseline is the same. They've all agreed.
Yes.
That's price fixing. It's a crime.
It's a crime in Nigeria.
No, globally, it's a crime. It should be a crime in Nigeria. You shouldn't be allowed to fix prices.
Okay. Now, you are angling for a competition bill.
Yes, ma'am.
How far have you gone in this your quest for that bill?
Look, a coalition of civil society groups, even organized private sector, have come together, put together this bill. It's called the Competition and the Consumer Protection Commission Bill. It's sitting in the National Assembly. It's been there for, I don't know, maybe 5 assemblies to date.
It's been there.
It's been there. But you see, the people who will be affected by these things, the big names, I don't want to call their names, are lobbying against this competition bill. Is it in the manufacturing sector? Is it in the, do you understand? They know that if this bill is passed and it is law and the commission like that is set up, monopolies in Nigeria will be a thing of the past, where I'm the one who decides how much sugar comes into town or how much salt can be sold or how much computers anybody can buy. It will be a thing of the past, because then the commission's business is to ensure that the market is free for every player. The small players can come in, the big ones can also survive. Do you understand? Then consumers can say, okay, I have a choice. If I don't want to buy from A, I can buy from B or from C or from D. But when we have all blocked, you've closed us in, NERC closed us in by locational allocations, geographical allocations. You are this disco, that disco. That is against competition. You should give everybody a chance to play in the same market. So consumers can say, I don't like the way Ikeja disco is treating me. I'm going to Eko. Do you understand? That's where choice. And that's what
I was saying this morning.
Prices. That's what will drive down prices. Do you understand?
Okay.
If, for instance, now, MTN has acquired all these spectrums, and then they play in data, they are big. They play in voice, they are massive. What choice? How can the small people compete?
Okay, so we have to go. So in closing,
Yes.
in closing, how effective have all you civil rights and advocacy groups been? Some say you've been compromised.
Oh, yeah, I hear that. People say that a lot. I don't know what you mean by compromise. It's dependent on what you've set yourself out to achieve. I can speak for myself. And I know that my passion for consumer protection transcends any personal benefit. I have opportunities to have benefited from doing this, but I would not take it because I'm more concerned in ensuring that Nigerian consumers have the best options that they can. We are the people abroad where we go and we see everything work. They don't have two heads. They're not better than us. Do you understand? The Nigerian consumer deserves better. And until we agitate for it and insist on it, because the people who control the rhetoric are the ones who have the money. You have the muscle. I'm running a protest, no banking day protest. I don't have money to push it. I've been dependent on consumer passing the information to the other. But on the 1st of March, the banks think it will not happen. They will be shocked. Because on the 1st of March, Nigerians won't go to the banks just in protest of all these excessive charges that they have been giving us. I've heard loads and loads of complaints. So we have this, you can only do as much as you can. Nigerians don't understand that, oh, I believe in this cause, let me put money to it. Do you understand? But we're getting there. I mean, people are offering to volunteer their time to push our no banking day protest. It's all part of what what we're doing. So it will take time, but we're getting there. And then we're using platforms like yours to alert the government. You need to do your responsibility. You cannot allow dominant players to keep muscling everybody out of the market because you can't.
All right, thank you very much, Shola Salako. Okay, we have plenty of tweets here, so we're asking questions, but we can't take them because of time. So let me just read out this one. It also says, consumers are getting a raw deal across sectors and industries in Nigeria. Then Shitu says, consumers also have a right not to use any of these products at all. We have to crawl before we start walking. Okay, thank you so much, President, Consumer Advocacy Foundation of Nigeria, Shola Salako. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Sunrise will be back in a moment. Please don't go away.